Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Wargaming. Today we are going to be looking over real quickly a reveal that just dropped on Atomic Mass Games Instagram, which is in relation to their stream and some of the upcoming announcements for Star Wars Legion. And honestly, at this point, I did not expect them to reveal as much as they did. So we're going to do a kind of hot take reaction to these new releases, but I'm not going to go too in-depth on review or strategy with them, as there is likely more to be revealed as time goes on. This is just my first impressions. And the first post by Atomic Mass Games is related to the transport bus coming out for the Rebels and the LAAT LE that is both dual faction for the Imperials and the Republic. Now, we saw the models themselves a little bit ago, but now we're finally seeing the cards for these models. And first up, we have that AA5 speeder truck. And I gotta say, I like this model a lot more than my initial reaction when this unit was announced and all we had to go off of was concept art. Still, it's a pretty silly looking vehicle, and it gives me the Rhino vibes from Warhammer 40k. Although somewhat less endearing because this is more just generic sci-fi hovercraft. And it reminds me a lot more of something like a shuttle from Star Trek than some of the awesome designs we get from Ralph McQuarrie's art. But hey, for a goofy flying cube, they did a pretty good job with the model and the paint job. And with this unit and the LAAT LE, we're going to be getting an interesting alternative to the heavy unit profile, as these vehicles both have the white defense die with a defensive surge, making them relatively fragile. Now, they do still have armor, but they are not going to be as strong or durable as most other heavy units, but that's also going to make them a lot cheaper, especially for this speeder truck, as it's only 75 points, but that's also mainly due to the fact that it doesn't have an innate weapon built into it. You need to take one as an upgrade. And this vehicle is going to be a hover transport with a lot of upgrade options here, most notably the pilot, which we all expected, but there is also two personnel looking kind of upgrades. I'm not sure if that's a gunner. Perhaps you can position those side doors open, as we've seen with some of the models, and have like chopper gunners, almost like a Huey helicopter, sticking out the side with blasters. And that would be pretty cool, because that means there's going to be a lot of different ways to equip this truck. It can be just a support transport, like, again, a Rhino, or you can upgrade it with some more points to make it something a little bit more offensive, kind of like a Rebel Technical, for a more moderate points cost. But the real shocker here is that this thing only has movement speed 1. I think we really expected a lot more mobility from this thing as it transports, and if I'm being quite honest here, that might completely squash its battlefield utility. But let's go ahead and take a look at that LAAT LE that both the Republic and the Imperials are getting, and as a Republic player, I honestly kind of feel like you can keep it. Go ahead and have it, Imperials. I don't really want this thing. It's definitely more of a traditional unit than the Rebel Speeder, as it does have a movement 2 speed and has a built-in weapon with range 1 to 3, throwing some nice die. But I just cannot get over how ugly this model is. No offense to the people who designed it. I think they did the best with what they have to work with. I just personally find it to be hideous. That being said, its rules aren't that bad. Like I said earlier, it has a good movement, it has a good ranged weapon, it has Arsenal 2 and some torpedo upgrades, so you might actually be able to do a lot of hit and run damage with this thing. But you also have two great rules in the keywords here. That's going to be cover 1, which is going to help negate a lot of wounds coming in. And then you're also going to have immune to blast, melee, and ranged 1 weapons. And I think those keywords in combination with the basic stats being a little bit better than the Rebel truck is going to make this a transport that just has a whole lot more battlefield utility. But I don't know, the rules on these just seem really awkward. Perhaps there is more to these units that will be revealed down the line, but as they currently stand, they just seem a little bit awkward. I'm sure there will be some crazy metas that emerge involving these vehicles, simply because they are also transports, which is currently very rare in Star Wars Legion. But for the more casual player, I don't really see them working out too well. On top of that, you factor in that these are probably going to be $60 kits. They're somewhat ugly vehicles, at least in my opinion. I'm sure some of you feel the same. And on top of that, they're not really beloved vehicles or designs from the Star Wars universe. They're very much tertiary tier things that are barely represented in media, and honestly don't even seem as popular as a lot of the Legends stuff that we have. But hey, I get that there is a pretty large void in the Star Wars universe for ground transports that kind of fill this role, so hats off to FFG for finding vehicles in the Star Wars universe that do fit into that gap. But we did also get some upgrades leaked here, the first of which is going to be a weapon upgrade for that Rebel truck, and this retrofitted heavy blaster is a little dull in my opinion. It's 16 points, it's going to give you a single rainbow with critical 1 at range 1 to 4, which is a respectable dice pool, but honestly nothing too impressive. Again, I think if you could take something like door gunners as an upgrade and layer this on top of them, you might be able to turn this vehicle into a pretty effective fighting platform. But I'll say this, it's no saber tank beam cannon, and it doesn't endear me any more to this model than I previously did. But after that, we're going to have a pilot for this vehicle that is going to be Shriv Sergav from the Battlefront 2 game, And he is going to be a Rebel-only pilot who can go onto other heavy vehicles aside from the truck, and he is going to have the Field Commander keyword, and he'll also have a nice support upgrade that's going to allow you to take a free action, which gives a dodge to a friendly trooper unit at range 1 to 2. It can also give them a suppression if you wish. And I'm honestly not really sure how that works out thematically. I don't know if Shriv was kind of like C-3PO, where he's always kind of being negative, and that could, give troopers suppression tokens just from his bad vibes. But I'm assuming that's the idea that they're going for. And that's pretty cool. You could honestly turn this vehicle into a little mobile command bunker, one that's going to dish out tokens and support your nearby rebels. However, I think you are going to need a little bit more oomph with the upgrades aside from just Shriv in order to justify the points cost in doing that. But after that, we have our Imperial Commander, Governor Price, for the LAAT LE, and she will be a field commander who can go into other Imperial heavies, and she has an ability similar to Shriv's that's a free action that will give a friendly trooper unit at range 1 to 2, 1 aim, and 1 suppression token. And I'm assuming that suppression token thematically comes from her being kind of evil. I'm not sure. She has that evil haircut like the lady from Austin Powers. I don't know. I never watched Rebels. And this card is okay, I guess. I don't know. I don't really find it that appealing, especially when you look at some of the other pilot upgrades you get for the Empire. There's some really good keywords that they give you. And having this Monkey's Paw aim and suppression bonus just doesn't really seem like it's worth a 10-point upgrade. In fact, when you consider the points nerf to the other Imperial pilots, I bet you she drops down to 5 points or maybe even less in the distant future. Honestly, just not a very good card in my opinion. But lastly, we get Clone Commander Fox, and I was really cool to see him and his artwork show up here. Unfortunately, he is a stinker. His support ability is a little bit better than Price's, as he allows you to give them a surge token and remove a suppression token. But the real problem is that he can only show up on the LAAT LE, and cannot be equipped to other clone vehicles. So yeah, for 10 points, I just don't really know. I don't really see myself ever taking a commander like this. I suppose the idea here is that you have these commanders who can deliver units into the battlefield and then hang around them and give them support while they continue to fight. But I'm really skeptical as to how much these points investments will actually be worth it in order to do that. And I really hate to be cynical, and I don't want to seem like I'm ungrateful for a Star Wars Legion release, but I have a hunch that these things might be selling on par with the Imperial Bunker. Okay, maybe that's a little bit hyperbolic, but honestly, I have no intention of acquiring that LAAT LE, and I don't think I'm alone on that one. I think these units really needed to have some awesome keywords or unique upgrades in them to make it worth it, and at the moment, I just don't see that there. But that is going to move us along to the second post made by Atomic Mass Games tonight, the one that in my opinion was much more exciting, as we were revealed a bunch of new unit models for the prequel factions, and also a much anticipated leak on Grandmaster Yoda. And for the first few models, we are just going to have paint jobs here, the first of which is going to be that super tactical droid that we were recently leaked. And I gotta say, this model looks awesome, and I am very excited to see a lot of the paint jobs that other people come up with them, as they do tend to be very ornately decorated, and have some neat contrast with those triple glowing eyes. And I'm also very excited for this model because I think it's going to be a nice mid-range commander who's going to come in around 100 points and give you some more powerful upgrades than the T-Series droid, and we may even get some named super tactical droids here who may have different perks. But after that, we were leaked the Magna Guard model, and I gotta say, I was very much anticipating the Magna Guards, and they do look very cool. I will say this though, I'm not a big fan of that pistol he's holding, and I don't know how I feel about the electric stuff coming off of the blade, especially when held at a more passive position like that. Elemental effects are just a little bit harder to paint for newer players, and that may scare some people away or cause them to struggle with these Magna Guards, or maybe even just make them a more cluttered looking model, even in the hands of a more experienced painter. Still, I am very much anticipating them, and I will 100% be picking up at least one box. We'll see, maybe more, if the rules and battlefield role shapes out to be something that appeals to me. But after that, we were revealed another one of the new Wookiee warriors, and I gotta say, I don't know what it is about the Wookiee models, they just don't do it for me. I really don't like this one. I hate the gun he's holding. I don't remember seeing that in Star Wars. I'm sure it appeared at some point, but it looks a lot more like a Halo gun, and it looks like it's just going to be a bit of a mess to paint in this scale. And I think Wookiees are something that I am more or less going to be completely skipping for my Republic faction. I know a lot of players wanted them, and I'm very glad that you guys are getting them. And there's some very cool camouflage ARF trooper schemes I've seen for clone armies, and I'm really excited for people who went that route to collect Wookiees alongside their clones. But this is another kit that I'm probably just going to save my money and pass on. But don't worry, I will still be giving them a unit review once we have their cards revealed. But last, and very certainly not least, probably the most anticipated thing from any of these leaks, and probably one of the most anticipated models in Star Wars Legion in general, we are going to have Yoda. And this card is really just mind-blowing here. He is a 200-point hero, and he's basically going to be our apex unit for the Republic faction, one that will stand alongside Count Dooku. However, I will say this, it's harder to fit a 200-point unit into a Republic list than it is to fit a 200-point unit into a Separatist list. And because of that, I think they did actually give Yoda a little bit more than 200 points is earned here, because oh wow, he is extremely powerful. First up, we're going to have 3 Force power upgrades, and then Master of the Force 2, something you would expect from Yoda. Honestly, I was really wishing for Master of the Force 3. I feel like if there's any character in the entire Star Wars universe you could give that to, it is Yoda, but they didn't go that route. And while that did initially leave me disappointed, I did remember that quote from episode 2 where he's facing off against Count Dooku and says something like, "It seems our powers in the Force are matched." So I guess it makes sense to keep him at Master of the Force 2. But some more interesting stats here. We are going to have 5 wounds backed up by Courage 4, with a defensive surge and surge to crits, alongside a range 1 to 2 attack with blast and suppressive. Yes, his tiny little lightsaber is a little bit lackluster at just 4 red die with impact and pierce 2, but that ranged attack wholly makes up for that. And also, Yoda is going to have a red defense die with defensive surge, meaning he has a 3+ armor save, the best you can get in the game. And I was pretty shocked by that. I suppose it's there to represent the fact that he is incredibly nimble and hard to hit, but I really expected them to take the dodge and nimble route, more so than having an extremely hardy save. So Yoda is not going to be an easy target to take down. After that, we have the guidance keyword, which will allow him to make a friendly trooper unit at range 1 to 2 take a free action that is non-attack action. So dodge, aim, move, quick thinking, you name it, it's all there. And that just has almost unlimited battlefield utility, and is probably one of the best keywords I've seen show up in Legion. But the last big focus here is going to be Artaru Mastery, which is arguably the best Jedi Mastery that we've seen yet. First up, you're going to get your standard spend a dodge token and you gain deflect, but this will allow you to perform 2 attack actions in a turn, and you will gain a dodge token each time you do so. And every time you defend against an attack, you are going to gain an aim token. And that just gets insane when you consider that Yoda has that range 2 attack with blast and suppressive. I mean, the guy is just going to be able to sit there and throw that range 2 attack and give blast and suppressive to an enemy units, and gain a dodge token each time he does so. It honestly just sounds insane, like almost too good to be true. And I think Grandmaster Yoda is going to be the linchpin if you want to run a suppression list with the clones. The only drawback I see with Yoda so far is the fact that he does not have a charge ability, which is going to make it a little bit hard for him to get into melee combat, but that's not going to be a huge deal when you can make that range 2 attack and make it twice per turn. That's 8 black dice with surge to crits and the suppressive keyword, which will be kicking in twice, meaning Yoda could probably cause a unit to flee the first turn after he attacks them. And this is all without even looking at his command cards. It's just a really freaking good unit. Perhaps even a little bit too OP in my opinion. But hey, at 200 plus points, he will be a quarter of your entire list. So overall, while I am relatively underwhelmed by the transport vehicles, I'm now very interested in seeing Yoda's command cards, and also seeing more on that super tactical droid and the Magna Guard. And I really do like the way that Atomic Mass Games has started doing these reveals. I think it's got the player base hyped up, and that's something that FFG kind of struggled to accomplish. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think I'm being way too down on those transport vehicles? Do you plan on buying one? Or are you going to save your money for something like Wookiee Warriors or Magna Guards? And what do you think about Yoda? I think he's incredibly OP, honestly. I'm very excited for him, but god damn. Anyways, if you liked the video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, consider leaving a like, turning on notifications, and until next time, take care.